Amanda Teague's marriage had begun as an odd curiosity that newspapers treated like a punchline, but by this point, there was nothing funny left in her life. What once made her glow with eccentric happiness now left her frail and shaking. Friends who visited her home described a change that unsettled them, a heaviness in the air, a silence that felt too thick, as if the rooms themselves were holding their breath. Amanda told them she was being punished, that her ghost husband had turned against her, that what was once a romance beyond the grave had become a prison from which she could not escape. She described the sensation of waking in the night to a crushing weight on her chest, unable to move, unable to scream, feeling icy hands pressing her down into the mattress. She swore she heard whispers in her ear, cruel taunts delivered in a voice that was no longer the gentle pirate she once adored, but something darker, colder, and far more controlling. Her health spiraled quickly. Amanda began to lose weight, her skin pale, her eyes shadowed with exhaustion. She confided that she felt drained, as if every day the spirit was siphoning her energy, feeding on her vitality. Doctors ran tests, blood work, scans, and yet each result came back inconclusive. The medical community had no explanation, but Amanda didn't need one. To her, the answer was already clear. Her ghost husband was consuming her. He was jealous. He was punishing her for speaking to reporters, for daring to share their private vows with a public that ridiculed him. He had once been her protector, but now he had become her captor. The media, of course, seized on this new development. Headlines shifted from playful curiosity to grim fascination. Bride of the Dead now claims her husband haunts her. One article read, tabloids mocked her mercilessly, turning her story into late-night comedy fodder. Yet despite the ridicule, Amanda continued to speak out. She sat for interviews, her hands trembling on camera as she admitted she was afraid for her life. The studio lights reflected off her weary face, her eyes flickering with both fear and determination. She said that love had blinded her, but now she understood she was in danger. Public opinion divided sharply. Some viewers shook their heads, dismissing her as delusional, a woman drowning in grief who had lost her grip on reality. Others leaned forward, transfixed, wondering if perhaps she had stumbled onto something terrifying that the rest of the world refused to believe. Online forums debated her every word. Paranormal enthusiasts claimed she had been deceived, that the spirit was never her romantic pirate at all, but something sinister masquerading as love in order to gain entry into her life. Psychologists countered, pointing to unresolved trauma, loneliness, and the human brain's ability to create elaborate constructs when faced with unbearable loss. But Amanda herself never wavered. She insisted this was no fantasy. It was real, and it was destroying her. As her story spread, so too did the terror in her home. Amanda said the spirit grew angrier, more violent, no longer whispering, but screaming. She described sudden crashes in night, doors slamming shut, objects flying across rooms. She claimed her bed shook violently as though rocked by invisible hands, and more than once she fled her own house, standing in the cold air outside, too afraid to return. The presence followed her, she said, appearing in mirrors, in reflections on television screens, in the corner of her eye, when she dared to think she might be safe. He was everywhere, and he reminded her, again and again, that she was his bride, bound to him beyond the grave. By now, Amanda's closest friends staged interventions. They begged her to seek psychiatric care. They urged her to move, to abandon the house, to find therapy. But Amanda refused. "It's not in my head," she told them. "He's real, and he won't let me go." It was then that she made a decision that would bring her the harshest criticism of all, but also, she believed, her only hope of survival. She sought an exorcism. The ritual was not immediate. It required preparation. Spiritual advisors told her to fast, to pray, to cleanse her home of objects tied to marriage. She gathered photographs, candles, notes she had written to her ghost husband, and burned them in a fire, weeping as smoke filled the room. On the day of the exorcism, Amanda described a thick, unnatural cold filling the air, the temperature dropping as a priest and spiritual healer entered her home. They lit candles, chanting prayers in low voices. The room trembled with tension. Amanda sat in the center, clutching a crucifix, her body rigid with fear. The ritual began with invocation, calling on divine authority to drive out the presence that had bound itself to her. At first, Amanda said she felt only unease, a prickling on the back of her neck. But as the prayers intensified, she convulsed. She claimed she felt him inside her, twisting, clawing, desperate to remain. Her breathing grew ragged, her eyes rolling back, her hands clawing her own skin, as though trying to rip him out. Witnesses said her voice changed, that guttural sounds erupted from her throat, too deep, too distorted to be her own. Amanda later described it as if she'd been forced to the edge of death, a battle waging inside her body between light and darkness. The climax came suddenly. She screamed, her body arching violently, before collapsing to the floor, motionless. For a moment, those present feared she was gone. But then she gasped for breath, sobbing uncontrollably, whispering that he had been torn away, ripped from her body, his screams echoing in her ears until silence finally returned. The air in the room shifted. The heaviness lifted. Amanda believed she was free. But freedom did not erase the scars. In the weeks that followed, she admitted she still felt his shadow lingering in her mind, watching from a distance. She told interviewers that though the marriage was over, the damage remained. Her health was fragile, her trust in herself shattered, and yet she felt compelled to warn others. She said that love can blind, that loneliness can open doors best left closed, and that inviting a spirit into your life was never worth the risk. Her warnings were sharp, but behind them lingered a chilling uncertainty. Had she truly been freed? Or had she simply exchanged one story for another, reshaping her grief into a new narrative that made sense of her suffering? Skeptics argued the latter, claiming the exorcism was merely a dramatic release, a ritual that gave Amanda the psychological permission to let go. Believers, however, were not so sure. They pointed to her physical changes, the violent episodes during the ritual, the chilling claims of guttural voices. To them, Amanda had battled something real, something dangerous. And Amanda herself? She remained caught in the middle, her voice heavy with sorrow as she admitted that though she had been released, she would never be the same. She had once been a bride, but her groom had turned into a nightmare. Amanda Teague's story did not end with the exorcism. In many ways, that ritual marked only the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with silence, reflection, and the long shadow of everything she had endured. She had once imagined herself standing proudly as the bride of a ghost, proof that love could defy the grave. But when the vows turned into shackles, when devotion gave way to torment, she was forced to confront the chilling truth. Not all love stories are meant to last forever, and some are never what they seem. In the weeks that followed, Amanda retreated from the public eye. The interviews slowed, the headlines shifted to new scandals, and the world seemed eager to forget the woman who had dared to marry the dead. But Amanda could not forget. Her nights remained restless, filled with the echoes of memories she wished she could erase. She confessed to friends that she sometimes still felt him, an icy chill brushing against her skin, a whisper in the dark, a flicker of movement in the corner of her vision. She would sit up in bed, heart racing, convinced that he had returned, only to find nothing but silence. Was it lingering trauma, or was he still there, watching, waiting? Amanda could never be sure. The scars he left behind were not just spiritual, but physical. Her body remained fragile, her immune system weakened from the months of strain. Doctors warned her to rest, to rebuild. Yet Amanda often admitted that true rest never came. Peace, she said, was a luxury she no longer trusted. She spoke carefully when she did appear in public, no longer with the playful sparkle that had once accompanied her story, but with the solemn weight of someone who had brushed too close to something she could not fully understand. Her laughter was gone, replaced by warnings. "Don't do what I did," she told those who reached out to her. "Don't invite them in, no matter how lonely you are, no matter how much you want to believe." Her words struck a chord. Letters arrived from strangers who claimed they had experienced something similar. Spectral lovers, ghostly whispers, unseen presences that promised affection but brought despair. Some believed Amanda's warnings had saved them. Others accused her of deception, insisting she had crafted a sensational story to gain attention. Amanda never tried to convince them otherwise. For her, the truth was simple. whether anyone else believed her or not. She had lived it, and surviving it had come at a terrible cost. Skeptics continue to analyze her case. Psychologists argued that Amanda's marriage had been a manifestation of unresolved grief and imagination, a way to make sense of loneliness until the fantasy consumed her. Paranormal researchers, however, insisted that Amanda's account aligned too closely with documented cases of malevolent entities masquerading as benevolent spirits, tricking their victims into submission before revealing their true nature. The divide between believers and skeptics only deepened. But Amanda herself seemed no longer interested in the debate. She simply wanted peace. And yet, there was one lingering truth Amanda could not escape. Whether her ghost husband had been real or the product of a mind under duress, the pain was the same. The torment, the fear, the exorcism, all of it left her with a haunting sense that some doors should never be opened. She often said that people search for love in places they shouldn't, that desperation can lead to danger, and that the unseen world is not a playground. Those who treat it lightly, she warned, may find themselves bound to something they cannot control. Her home in Drogheda, Ireland, became a place of hushed whispers. Neighbors spoke cautiously about Amanda's ordeal, some calling her brave, others calling her unstable, but all agreeing that her story carried a strange, lingering weight. Even years later, locals recalled a woman who claimed to marry a ghost, who later fought to escape him, who became a symbol of both ridicule and tragedy. For Amanda, life never truly returned to normal. She carried on, yes, living, working, speaking carefully about her experiences, but the shadow of her ghost marriage never fully faded. It was etched into her story forever. And for those who heard it, one question always lingered. What really happened to Amanda Teague? Was she the victim of her own grief, spiraling into delusion until her mind conjured a husband from beyond the grave, and then a villain when the fantasy turned sour? Or was she the victim of something darker, something that wore the mask of love to gain her trust, only to enslave her in the most intimate way possible? The answer may never be known. What remains is a cautionary tale of grief, of love, of the lengths we go to fill the emptiness within us, and of the unseen dangers that may be waiting when we reach too far into the unknown. Amanda once thought she had found the perfect partner, someone who would love her beyond the limits of life itself. But instead, she discovered something chilling, that some loves are not meant to save us. Some are meant to destroy us. And as the candlelight fades, as Amanda's voice trembles with warning, the story leaves us with one haunting question. When she looks into the darkness and swears she still feels him near, is it only memory, or has he truly never left? Her story is a reminder that love can blind us, that grief can twist reality, and that sometimes the things we long for most can be the very things that destroy us. Amanda once believed she had found forever, but what she found was something far more terrifying. And it leaves us with one chilling thought. If love can reach beyond the grave, then so can obsession. If the story unsettled you, there are more waiting. Make sure you subscribe to Blacklisted Stories so you don't miss what comes next, because the truth is always stranger and darker than fiction. In our next episode, we uncover another shocking case where love, trust, and obsession collide. And this time, the ending is even more disturbing. Until then, ask yourself, how well do you really know the ones you give your heart to?